Freud's brilliant for metaphor. I mean, he combines clinical experiences with a rich tapestry of metaphor. And one of his main explanatory metaphors is the steam engine, basically. So, how do you can't see the psyche, you can't weigh the psyche, you can't measure it. So you have to create metaphors to describe it, to talk about it. So he pictured the psyche as it were a steam engine, a vessel, the unconscious, full of energy, not of water molecules, but of feelings and thoughts and memories trapped in the unconscious, exerting forces against each other. So different parts, pistons, drive shafts, resistances, etc., etc. And he conceived of the therapeutic method as like a release valve where we allow this pent-up unconscious material to come into consciousness. And, that survives, and psychodynamic theories, as you know, are still very much used because they have an explanatory power. They do reveal something. However, they also conceal things as well. Metaphors are only partial. The mind and certainly the imagination isn't entirely like a machine, because if it was, you could just turn on a switch and you wouldn't be depressed anymore.
Plus, dream interpretation would be you could replicate
Guaranteed
the
every time.
analysis.
Yeah. So there's obviously more to it than a mechanical paradigm. So I present what I call an ecological imagination, which is drawing on metaphors from contemporary science, from complexity theory, which is how modern physics understands change. And they've modeled those theories not on the mechanical world, but on weather patterns, on human heartbeats, and on tidal rhythms. And this is a very different conception of the imagination and dream, which sees it not as a machine full of complicated parts that we can model with a boundary around it outside that we can sort of tinker with it. And because often, like, a mechanical imagination would isolate the key image, put it on the workbench of therapy, and try to affect some change in that inner child image, for example, help it grow up, become mature. But you can't, Winnicott, he spoke to this. He says there's no such thing as a baby, which for a child therapist is a kind of strange thing to say. But what he meant was, you can't understand a child, a baby, separate from the mother, separate from the environment, the house, the food, the culture within which it's reared. It's a complex system, a baby. And as with babies, so too with trees and waves and human imagination. It's a bringing together or a synthesis of lots and lots of different images, but also feelings, thoughts, sensations, actions, etc., etc. So for me, I'm trying to approach the image in its wholeness, not take it apart into its separate sub-personalities or part images. Treat it as a whole. Experientially, that's incredibly important. Of course, if you're not doing experiential work, knock yourself out and talk about parts and sub-personalities and the inner child. For me, these are abstract terms that become terribly useful if we want to think about our lives, if we want to think about dream and imagination. But if we want to be imaginative, we need to avoid that kind of language because it creates distance. And thanks for watching to the end. If you're new, do subscribe. And if you'd like to learn more about wild imagination, do check out my book, Waking Dreams, Imagination in Psychotherapy and Everyday Life. And I will see you again in the next video. Okay, bye bye.